Sometimes us chefs get accused of overthinking things. It's not always a bad thing. Hey everybody, so today I'm doing something fairly simple, but I'm going to change it up a bit. I'm going to make a Caprese salad. A Caprese salad is fresh tomatoes, mozzarella, basil, fresh basil. Gotta have fresh basil in that. I wish my garden was growing right now because, well, I would have fresh basil instead of store-bought basil. But there are some things you can do to elevate that to make it special. Now, like I said, there's 5 ingredients. There's fresh mozzarella, there is ripe tomatoes, basil, usually some olive oil, and 5th, some balsamic vinegar. But we can change things around just a little bit and we can make it much, much better. Okay, first thing we're going to do, first ingredient is the mozzarella. We'll get to that later. We're going to go on to the next ingredient. Tomatoes. I've got these beautiful heirloom tomatoes. They're browns, they're nice, very ripe. Get the ripest you can. A word about tomatoes. Just because you get it at the grocery store and some farmers markets, be careful with that, doesn't necessarily mean it was fresh picked or it was picked ripe. Chances are it wasn't. So, tomatoes, basil. Again, if you got your garden going, fresh basil, otherwise we have to use what we have. Let's go on to the olive oil. Now, I've got a cup of olive oil here. Why just plain olive oil? And this is the good stuff, this is the extra virgin. Why do we have to go with just plain olive oil? We've got the basil. Let's make basil oil. So first things first, we'll get the oil in our little saucepan here. And we'll get that warming up. Doesn't have to be super hot. And let's look at our basil. Now, typically with basil, you've got sometimes, well, these are a little crumpled up. You got the stems. Chuck them in. I'm going to save the pretty leaves for the salad, but some of these leaves are not all that pretty. So I'm going to use them to make my basil oil. Okay, those will set aside because we're going to use them for garnish of the salad itself. Let's bring this up to a boil and we're going to infuse this oil with the basil. It's going to be delicious. Okay, so I've got my temperature set at about 180 degrees. This has been going for about 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes. I lost track of time, you know, doing all the other stuff around here since I am a one-man crew here. Also the cameraman, the sound guy, and the producer and director. It's kind of strange watching me yell at myself. Okay, so this has been going a couple minutes. We're going to turn it off. We're going to set this aside and let that steep, just like you would tea or coffee. Let's talk about the balsamic vinegar. I like having a glaze instead of just straight balsamic vinegar because one, it looks prettier on the plate and doesn't run all over the place. So let's go with our balsamic. I got, to tell you the truth, the cheapest bottle on the shelf. But that doesn't mean it's bad. We're going to make it better. I'm going to pop it open. So I'm going to use about a cup and a half. Yeah, about a cup and a half. Like I said, about a cup and a half of balsamic vinegar. It's in my pot here. We're going to bring it up to a boil and we're going to reduce it down to a glaze. But while we're here, we can add some flavor into this. For a nice little trick, add some strawberries in there. That'd be really good, make a nice little dessert sauce. I'm going to add, I'll be right back. I'm going to add honey. Good local stuff. It says so on the bottle. That was probably about an ounce or so. We're just going to let that reduce, probably take about 10-15 minutes. You want it to almost a syrup consistency. By the way, when you're reducing vinegars, make sure you have proper ventilation. Okay, so we're at a glaze right now. So what I'm looking for is just kind of a tight little, notice how that line stays? That's exactly what we're looking for. This will be perfect. We'll set this aside. And all this stuff has to cool first. And mind you, you could do this a day in advance, or 2 days in advance, or a week in advance. Okay, next we're going to take care of this oil. It's infused, probably about 15-20 minutes. I'm going to give it the stick and puree it. Okay, I pureed it, made a big mess. Be careful. You really should have something taller sided to do that. But I'm going to run this through. I got a good bit of the flavor out, but I'm going to run this through a sieve. Just to kind of get a little bit more basil flavor into that oil. There we go. Looks pretty good. That's a little bit of air bubble in there. That'll all settle out, hopefully. Next we can start plating this dish. Okay, now let's talk mozzarella. We've dealt with the olive oil, we dealt with the balsamic vinegar. We're going to go on to the mozzarella. Now with the mozzarella, I'm not going to use mozzarella. I'm going to use burrata. Burrata is mozzarella that is stuffed with the scraps from pulling the mozzarella that has been integrated with some cream. It's good stuff. But one thing you have to do, even if you do use mozzarella, this is a step that I highly, highly recommend. And a lot of people skip this step. Dry your orbs. Well, one, you don't want that milky brine on it. And two, if you dry it, the olive oil will stick to it. And so will seasoning, which we are going to do. There we go. We'll set that aside. I've plucked the basil. I've got big leaves here, small leaves here. We're going to use them both. Now let's talk about our tomatoes. You could slice these. That'd be fine. I'm just going to cut wedges. You need a very sharp knife for this, especially since how ripe these are. But I'm just going to cut a few wedges out of this. And set them in this bowl here. Why? We're going to season it. Okay, a little bit of salt. I've got kosher here. A little fresh cracked pepper. Make sure it's well integrated together. Now, we got another little cup. We've got our burrata. It needs to be seasoned too. Mozzarella really needs seasoning. Otherwise, it's fairly bland. Get a little bit of salt on there also. A little bit of pepper. And we're going to hit it with our basil oil. Give this a turn. Now we're ready to plate this up. Beautiful white plate. We're going to start off with our balsamic drizzle. We're just going to draw a design on the plate. Doesn't have to be perfect, just go do whatever you want. I'm going to put a little bit of pepper down on the plate. Well, you'll see. Just a little design. And now, the burrata. Going right in the center of the plate. Our tomatoes, just arrange them whatever way you want. Abstract always works for me. Now the big leaves of the basil, I'm just going to tear and I'm going to throw them on there wherever they go. Doesn't really matter to me. I just want it on there. These little leaves, we're going to do the same thing. Just arrange it everywhere you can anywhere you can on the plate. We're going to drizzle a little bit more of the basil oil in there. And now just a little bit of finishing salt. I've got some Himalayan pink salt. Nice stuff. I'm going to put a little bit here in this ring and then just arrange a little bit everywhere on the plate. There you have it. My version of a Caprese salad. I'll get some close-up pictures of it. So this is Chef Terry. If you enjoyed this, come on back, like, subscribe, do all that stuff down there. Smash all those buttons. I'll see you next time.